I believe that classical music absolutely lifts our spirits, connects us with infinity, with the divine, with the sublime. It's good for our souls. Got to have it in our lives.
I can't think of another person who played an instrumental role both in our musical community and our artistic community as Lynne has done, and bridging both of those communities and connecting them together with her passion for the arts.
You can see Diamond Head.
Yes.
It's just beautifully framed. So
the most time-consuming thing that I'm involved in now is the University of Hawai Board of Regents. It's a source of energy. There's so much potential, much of which is being actually realized today.
The two of them together, especially with Randy's work here at UH as chairman of the Board of Regents, their commitment to the idea that arts are an important part of a well-rounded, educated person. That will go on and on and on and on and on.
They have such a calm, unassuming, wise way about them. You wouldn't look at them and say, oh my gosh, they are making the world a different place, but they really are.
For their lifelong commitment to the educational and cultural institutions that enrich us all, the Historic Hawai Foundation is proud to honor Lynne Johnson and Randy Moore as the 2016 āina of the Year.
They love Hawaii, like the actual place, the actual island, so much. And they know that, you know, honoring the beauty of Hawaii helps educating children in Hawaii, helps rooting those children to Hawaii, and then helps those children come back and make Hawaii better.
I know Lynne worked really hard to keep the Hawaii Symphony going, and then second, to create the foundation that was some of the assets for the symphony that would support symphony and music in the future. And that foundation is part of the reason that the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra has a chance to be successful today.
In the late 80s and early 90s, the Honolulu Symphony was going through very troubled times. The Japanese bubble was beginning to burst, which had given a lot of financial backing to the symphony. Very few people are aware of that.
When my mom was chairman of the board of the symphony, she was so wrapped up in everything that she was doing, she would sometimes forget things like her children at school, and so I would walk home from school. Luckily we're only about a mile away, but she was driving up the road and I had to jump out into the middle of the road to show her, hello, I'm here, please pick me up and take me home, just because her mind was so focused on getting things done for the symphony.
Lynne's contribution during the time she was board chair, a very important contribution, was a relationship with the musicians. They became part of the team, which wasn't the case in the past.
we did succeed in getting the musicians back and getting the season going and hiring a new director, and all this happened. And there was at least one person who came to Randy and says, I bet you were the one behind this. And Randy said, no, Lynne did this all by herself. But it was Randy behind me, letting me know that he believed in me and that of course I could do it. There was never any doubt in his mind. And the same thing happened when I decided to go and get my doctorate in musicology.
I think that that relationship was always there back in 1971. Randy was dating somebody else, Lynne was dating somebody else, Randy was always crazy about Lynne, and Lynne kind of wasn't sure about Randy at the time.
So he was like a brother to me. And my older brother would say, Lynne, why don't you marry Randy? And of course, that's the kiss of death.
I don't know, I think I was interested in her longer than she was interested in me.
There's no mystery there. And so it took me 13 years to kind of wake up.
Persistence. Persistence paid off. Patience.
They're constant students. They need to be learning something all the time.
In college, my long-term expectation is I was going to be a teacher. That had always been my goal as a young person, but I got derailed.
When I first knew Randy, he was a business executive. He was a junior executive, actually, probably in the early 70s, and he rose up through the ranks of Castle and Cooke and became the CEO. This is great. Anyone would coast at that point or go on to another CEO's job.
He retired early to become a public school teacher. He retired early to become a math teacher at Central Middle School.
Really enjoyed the teaching. Hardest job I've ever had.
He realized that education was a major problem for the state. So what did he do? He goes back to school, gets a degree in education, teaches school, gets into the administration, gets into a situation in the administration where he can actually make change. And now, of course, being the board chair at the University of Hawaii Board of Regents, he's elevated his knowledge not just of primary and secondary education, but now also higher education. And it was a choice he made to give up a very successful career to do what he thought he could do to change something for the better in the community.
A lot of it comes from the support they have for each other. And you know, if one of them didn't support the other, they couldn't have achieved half as much as they've been able to achieve.
Lynne is so passionate about music that her passion is contagious.
As I became more knowledgeable about music, I was eventually asked to do some radio programs that would preview the opera. And now I do the interviews and the presentation at the Doris Duke Theater. But I love doing it because you can see that people get excited about going to see the opera if they know what to expect.
Sometimes that's really hard to find in an academic who teaches music, you know, that just excitement about, I'm going to tell you about something you don't know anything about, and at the end of it, you're going to love it.
My philosophy is that people deserve to be surrounded by beauty. Whether it's beauty in nature, whether it's beauty in your living surroundings, whether it's beauty in music. And I've always felt that music and art are intertwined. In other words, if you really want to know what the music is like, you got to know what the art is like.
Lynne set the stage, she set the foundation for what the institution is today. You know, she moved right into the director's office and came to work every day. She took us through the merger process, and it was a tough merger, but Lynne always was so optimistic. She had a vision for the future and why this was important to Hawaii. She's thinking things through, and she cares so much about Hawaii, about the different cultures represented here, about the native Hawaiian culture, about music, about art, about the environment, all these different elements. And she sees, I believe, how they all work together and how valuable they are, and then how valuable it is to share that with your kids.
Randy and I have an adorable little 2-year-old grandson named Kupono. He loves nature. He loves going on hikes, and I know he'll love nature. I think he'll appreciate music, and he will be who he wants to be. It's just wonderful to help create a world and continue to have beauty in the world, and knowing that the next generation can come along and contribute and appreciate it.
People need connections to their past so that their future is anchored in something as opposed to simply floating with no connectivity. So the past is important, the future is important. It's important to connect the two.
What they've done isn't just what they've done for now, but what they do is always with a vision for how people can carry on after them. It's not about ego. For either one of those people, for either Lynne or Randy, it's not about ego. It's about what they can give back to Hawaii, purely and simply and into the future.
They're a blessing to Hawaii.
They walk the walk, isn't that what they say?
So it's been fun adventure.
It has.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
you.